He warned his coworkers, "If I'm not back by Monday, send a ranger." Then he vanished on Devil's Ridge, one of the deadliest trails in America. For 3 years, the mountain kept his secret, until a ranger found a skeleton wearing his shredded clothes, and one detail proved this wasn't the ending anyone expected. Before we begin today's story, take a moment to imagine someone you work with. Someone predictable, reliable, and maybe even a little too adventurous for their own good. Now imagine that same person walking into the wilderness on a route so dangerous that one wrong step could take a life. Imagine him laughing at the danger, brushing off every warning, and saying the words that would echo in the minds of everyone who knew him. "If I'm not back by Monday, send a ranger." And then he disappears. For 3 years. When he finally turns up, he's nothing but bones lying on a rocky bed at the bottom of the valley, wearing the same shredded clothes he left with. The same blue hiking bag still strapped to his decayed frame. The same ID card from his office, weather-worn but readable. Case closed, right? Not even close. Because what the ranger noticed, what he quietly reported, and what investigators tried to bury, was a detail that didn't line up with what everyone believed. Before we unravel this chilling mystery, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps this channel continue bringing you real, haunting stories from across America. Now, let's begin. Ethan Hawk Lawson, 35, wasn't a daredevil. He wasn't reckless. But he was obsessed with the peace he found in the mountains. Every Friday, coworkers watched him sling his worn blue hiking bag over his shoulder before disappearing into the Colorado wilderness. That bag became such a signature part of him that when someone saw it, even from a distance, they'd laugh and say, "There goes the weekend hiking warrior." Ethan was proud of the nickname. His desk at the office overlooked a highway and a strip mall, but every photo pinned on his cubicle walls showed towering cliffs, alpine lakes, forests covered in snow, and Ethan, always smiling, always free. But despite his experience, despite his encyclopedic knowledge of trails, one route had always been on his forbidden list. Devil's Ridge. It was a 7-day trek that spiraled from icy mountain ledges down into a valley carved like a scar. More than a dozen hikers had died there, tumbling into the ravine after one bad turn. History said the trail didn't forgive mistakes. Ethan didn't care. On a Thursday morning, coffee in hand, he announced to the office, "I'm doing Devil's Ridge this weekend." Everyone stared. Before he left work that Friday, he said the last words anyone ever heard from him. "If I'm not back by Monday, send a ranger." They laughed. No one laughed a week later. Devil's Ridge wasn't famous, it was infamous. The National Park Service described it as unmaintained, extreme difficulty, and not recommended without a partner. The trail wound like a jagged spine across the mountain, with narrow ledges carved by ancient rock slides. Below lay the Devil's Ravine, a deep drop filled with boulders that had pulverized countless climbers over the years. Ethan arrived at the trailhead at dawn, snapped a single photo of the rising sun, and set off. Other hikers later reported seeing him around mile 2, fast, confident, humming as he walked. But something else was reported too. A pair of campers claimed someone else was shadowing Ethan at a distance. They didn't see a face, just a figure wearing dark clothing moving when Ethan moved, stopping when he stopped. The campers assumed they were part of the same group. They weren't. Ethan made his last known journal entry at 4:17 p.m. Day 1. Wind strong. Trail narrow. Staying careful. Ridge louder than I expected. After that, nothing. On Monday morning, when he wasn't at work, Jason, his closest friend in the office, called the park ranger. "Send someone," Ethan said to. The ranger didn't hesitate. The search began at dawn the next day. Helicopters scanned the ridge. Volunteers combed through the brush. Dogs picked up the scent near the narrow pass around mile 4. But then the scent stopped. Not drifted, stopped. A pile of loose gravel near the edge suggested a fall, but there were no skid marks, no gear fragments, nothing belonging to Ethan. Most hikers who fell from Devil's Ridge left something behind: broken poles, torn fabric, a shoe. Ethan left nothing. Theories circulated immediately. Maybe he slipped. Maybe a rockslide hit. Maybe he got lost beyond the valley. Maybe an animal attacked. But the more they searched, the stranger things became. His campsite was found at a flat clearing where he clearly cooked his last meal. But the fire pit was cold and fully extinguished. His tent was gone, as if he'd packed up and walked deliberately to the ridge. Searchers later admitted something unsettling. It didn't look like an accident. It looked like he left, intentionally. By week 3, with no evidence, the official report stated, "Presumed deceased from accidental fall into Devil's Ravine. Case closed. The mountain won." Or so everyone thought. Life moved on without Ethan. His desk remained untouched for months. His blue hiking bag, his trademark, was missing, assumed lost with him. The office held a memorial service. His parents buried an empty coffin. But the truth was simple. Ethan Lawson's body had never been found. His gear had never been recovered. And Devil's Ridge had never given up a secret voluntarily. Until the fall of the 3rd year. A new ranger, Officer Marcus Hale, was assigned to the region. He had heard the stories of Ethan, the man with the fearless grin, the man who walked into the mountain and never came back. On September 12th, while hiking the valley base after a series of storms, Marcus noticed something half buried beneath a rock. A strip of faded blue fabric. Something about the color made his stomach drop. He cleared the debris. There, crumpled awkwardly against the rocks, was a human skeleton, lying exactly as if it had fallen straight down and never moved again. Clothing hung in shredded tatters around the bones. Weather, animals, and decay had torn the fabric apart, but the pattern was unmistakable. It was the outfit Ethan wore the day he disappeared. Marcus backed up, breath shaky. Then he saw it. A blue hiking bag, rotting, mangled, but still recognizable. The same blue bag Ethan never went anywhere without. Inside it, an office ID card. Ethan's face stared up through the scratched plastic. The mountain had finally given him back. But something wasn't right. Not at all. The discovery made headlines immediately. Missing hikers remains found after 3 years. Devil's Ridge mystery finally solved. But the ranger who found him, Marcus, filed a separate, confidential note. A note investigators didn't want public. Because when he examined the skeleton up close, he noticed a disturbing detail. The bones were lying on top of foliage that hadn't existed 3 years earlier. In other words, the body had not been there the entire time. Someone, or something, had moved it. But why? And when? Forensic analysis confirmed. The clothing was old, weathered, and consistent with 3 years of exposure. The bag was decaying at the rate expected. The ID card had sun bleaching consistent with prolonged outdoor conditions. The skeleton was indeed Ethan Lawson. But the environment where the body was found showed fresh vegetation growth, soil layers undisturbed until recently, and storm debris beneath the remains. It was impossible for the body to have lain there for 3 years. Someone placed Ethan's remains there recently. But who moves a skeleton? And for what purpose? Investigators quietly reopened the case. They interviewed hikers who had visited Devil's Ridge over the past few years. Many reported seeing disturbing things. A tent deep in the valley that vanished days later. A flashlight beam moving at night with no hiker registered in the area. Footprints in mud that looked more like someone wandering aimlessly than hiking. One testimony stood out. A couple hiking the valley floor claimed they saw a man 3 years ago, dirty, limping, wearing torn gear, who stared at them from the tree lean. When the couple tried to speak to him, he ran. They assumed he was a vagrant. They had unknowingly described Ethan. But how had he survived the fall for so long? Why didn't he approach help? Was he injured, disoriented, or was someone keeping him hidden? Then came the twist that changed everything. Forensic teams found something inside Ethan's bag that went unreported to the public. A second ID card. Not Ethan's. Someone else's. A hiker who went missing 6 months after Ethan. His body had never been found. Until now. But that wasn't the twist. The twist was that the second ID card had Ethan's fingerprints on it, from less than a year ago. Impossible, unless Ethan had been alive long after officials assumed he died. Investigators reconstructed the most likely scenario. Ethan didn't die on Devil's Ridge 3 years ago. He survived the fall into the ravine, injured, confused, likely suffering head trauma. He wandered deep into the valley, too weak to climb out. But he wasn't alone. Evidence suggests another missing hiker found him, the owner of the second ID card. That man likely tried to help Ethan, until nature took one of them first. Ethan scavenged what he could to survive, supplies, gear, anything left behind. He lived off the land, moving through the valley like a ghost, terrified and disoriented. Until 1 year ago. That's when, based on decomposition timeline, Ethan finally succumbed to exposure in a hidden part of the valley. So who moved his body? Investigators believe another unknown individual, possibly another lost or unregistered hiker, found Ethan's remains and moved them closer to the edge of the valley. Why? No one knows. The case was finally closed, but Marcus, the ranger who found Ethan, revealed one last detail years later. When he found the body, the blue hiking bag wasn't zipped shut. It was open, as if someone had gone through it, recently. And near the skeleton, almost invisible beneath the soil, he saw footprints. Fresh ones. Not Ethan's. Someone else had been there hours before he arrived. Someone who has never been identified. Someone who might still be living in the valley. Watching. Waiting. Ethan Lawson's story isn't just a tale of a hiker who vanished. It's a chilling reminder of how unpredictable and unforgiving the wilderness can be. A man known for conquering mountains found himself trapped in one. He survived longer than anyone imagined, endured conditions no human should face, and died alone in the shadows of Devil's Ridge. But the twist in this case forces us to confront a darker truth. The wilderness doesn't just swallow people. Sometimes it hides them. Sometimes it keeps them alive long enough to blur the line between rescue and tragedy. And sometimes it reveals clues only to raise even more disturbing questions. Who moved Ethan's body? Who handled his bag? Whose footprints surrounded the remains? And most unsettling of all, is there someone still out there, another lost hiker, another ghost of Devil's Ridge, watching the trail from the valley's darkness? Thank you for watching. If this story gripped you the way it gripped us, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more true crime mysteries, survival stories, and chilling unsolved cases from across the United States. Stay safe out there, and stay curious.